So we just did our morning state meditation training, then did our form training, and now it's Q&A. So the guys are sharing their observations in the breakout room, and so yeah, we'll start Q&A in a moment. If you're watching this replay, welcome, and if you haven't jumped into the Wing Chun family or the One Tao family, where we have a community of over 12,000 students all training, welcome. Welcome to the Q&A. I'm letting all the students from our online session back in. And they'll be firing away with questions. Feel free to listen in, and then at the end, after I finish answering all their guys' questions here, then I'll be able to answer some of yours. Look at you go. Hey, what's up? Look at you go. Welcome. I'm assuming you guys are in the family, the One Tao family. So hope you're enjoying yourself in there. If you do have any questions, put them in the comments and I'll get to them once I've answered the questions from the guys from my academy, from my private academy. So they'll be back in about 10 seconds or so. But if you do have any questions on YouTube Live, just put them in the comments and I'll get to them when I can. Welcome back.
We're back.
Yes, you are. Alrighty, so what questions, observations, discussion points do we have today? Let's keep it on the...
I have none. I've mastered Wing Chun.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, let's keep...
I've mastered watching you and learning from you, TJ.
Huh? I had a question.
Yes, sir.
I had a question.
Far away.
So as the other day I was sitting and then kind of like relaxed this and that, but then I noticed too, which I just thought I was like in the perfect position and maybe like when I'm doing it. So like in Sifu Tao, or so like I'm right here, right? And then so when I end up in the meditation, I'll end up kind of like here, where my arms are kind of just like lax down here, even though I feel like I'm like opening up my chest and then like kind of expanding behind like my shoulders and stuff. It's just like my arms like tend to go down, so I don't know if that's me not focusing on center, or that's just normal and that's like
sure.
where I'm at.
Gotcha. Well, essentially, you're sensing and syncing. You're trying to relax and release any tension in the body whilst you're doing it. So often what will happen is that you will kind of lose the position. You actually do want to keep the position. So you do want to keep that sense of levelness with the chest, targeted to that point, as opposed to this happening. Because what you'll notice, if you bring your arm to here, for me, Red, like if we do it right now, put your arm here with me, yeah? And then feel how your arm's kind of just stationary now. There's no targeting. It's like it's resting on a couch or something. It's not active. Whereas if you bring it back to this position, right, without pressing it into your chest or rib cage, right, and you're targeting it precisely, notice how there's an activity in your arm now. There's an activeness. Now, as you center, sense, and sync, as you start to sink through this but maintain the position, you'll feel like the arm wants to shoot forward. So what you're doing is you're kind of letting it, as you're centering and sinking, you're letting it just go.
Yeah,
let
it go forward.
Whereas you want to maintain the stance, because that trains the state. Because it's like this. It's like, you can think of it in the same terms of what I was discussing with the guys last night. So when you're standing, doing your Sifu Tao or whatever form, Your intention is to be at the end of the power plane, or at the end of the center line, as other systems call it. So at the end of the power plane, you have your projected center, right? And there's a sense of everything wanting to move towards that, but you don't actually move. You know what I mean? You're still standing there in Suling Tao stance. It's not that, oh, I'm starting to release now, I'm just gonna like chill and lie down on the line in front of me, right? So you know, it's good that you observe that, because ultimately you do want to maintain the position, because the position represents the condition.
Okay.
So that'd be my suggestion.
For sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah, thank you.
But that's the thing is that that's what you do want, that sense of release and letting go of tension in your body, right? That's 100% what you're looking for, but you don't want to come at the price of correct structure. You know, because you can feel the difference when you put your hands here. They're just dead. You know, dead in the sense that they're not actively pointing. So then if you press on them, they'll just go doing, doing, doing. They won't be there. But whereas if you have it, and now let's think about it in another way. You could be here, but actively pointed forward as well. You know what I mean? You could be there, but active. And then when you press on it, okay, there isn't that same just floppiness, right? But ultimately, and especially because you're in that first kind of 3 years, you want to be very, very precise with your shapes. And that's the first instruction from my master was, make your shapes beautiful first. That's the first priority. You know, once all the shapes are beautiful, those positions, they help potentiate the state into your system. The toes pointed slightly in, the knees softly bent, the risen upright spine, the softly tucked chin, the fists in the right positions, and then further, all of the different shapes and their positions being perfect. Cool.
Could I just add to that? Sorry, you still want to say something, Ruth? No, you don't.
No, I just said thank you.
Okay. I just want to add something. I can actually feel more energy now and strength in my left arm. And that was the first time today, because it was just being cack before. But one thing I've noticed is that when I come forward, I'm angling it towards the center, but I actually feel like my arm is right next to my chest. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay, as long as
I've got that arm.
No. So everyone's arms will pretty much have a sense of being touching the ribs in this area. That's normal, right? The problem lies when you press the arm, the upper arm, the bicep tricep humerus, when you press that into your actual body, because then the direction is not through the power plane, through the center. So it's fine to caress the system. There's no problem with that. Like, that's just the natural hangingness of the arm in space in relationship to the actual torso. So you just want it. Its direction, though, should be arcing into the power plane. So, you know, there's no problem with that at all. You can consciously do the wrong thing and just press your elbow and your arm into your body. Okay, that's the sense that I don't want, because then obviously the direction's off. You know, you're going the wrong way. And if we go further with that, then there's two flows if you're thinking about being correct with your direction. One is that everything is flowing into the power plane, into this plane here, from above the crown, from the earth. There's that plane of everything coming down there. And that means that the whole space and all the syncing and all the visual are doing this. They're funneling like an arc, the same trajectory that the elbow takes for your Fuk Sao and Tan Sao. All the intention and energy is funneling into that. So that's the first kind of directionality. However, also wherever your body is in space, so if my arm's out here, there's still a direct line of focus to that point. So I have everything pointed directly at the end of the intention, at the end of the power plane, and everything's also funneling in at the same time. So there's a domination of the center line / power plane, but there's also a direct connection from where everything is pointed to that line. Yeah. So you can think of it in those ways.
Thank you.
And those two in combination. Sorry, one last point on that, because this is an important point. The combination of this being targeted to that point and everything flowing into the power plane sets up the defensive mechanism so that your body knows when it makes contact or when something's coming that it needs to cover that line in order to prevent you from being hit. Sorry, go on. Next part.
I saw myself in the power plane for the first time today.
Could you explain more what you mean? Yeah. What do you mean by that? I want to understand what you mean.
Well, I saw myself energetically.
Okay. In front?
Yes, in front.
Yeah, good. That's the idea. So energetically, it's more intentionally. So your mental body, right? Your intention, my master would call it Nim Tao or intent, is placed on the end of the power plane. So it's as though, another way to say it is take your spine or your center and place it on the end there. So, and that potentiates the connection to the opponent or target, whether it's a wooden dummy or a bag or a person. And that also leads the mass momentum and energy to that point. So essentially you're consciously using your intention or mental body, you can call it as well, to direct all of your being to that line, so that all of your power is funneled to that point, or line is probably a better word. So good that you felt that. It's like, it's like I am standing there. Jace did put a really good video in. You saw the All Blacks thing where there's like a body of energy running in front of the Powerade. Yeah, it's a Powerade ad. Yeah, next. Yeah, so if you watch that video Jace posted, it's kind of a good image for it, where there's these rugby players, right? And there's a body of energy in front of them that's pulling their physical body into it, right? And that's the intention. The intention is first, meaning you put the intention body or the mental body or the Nim Tao there first, and then the energy can follow. And you can think about that quite logically, because without the mind, the energy has no direction. If you have no mind, right, your body's just either, in a coma or dead. If there's no mind, yeah? So the mind must precede that. It must place forward in front of you.
So it's the mental body in the power plane?
Yes. Or you can think about it as it starts off as more so as a thought form. You have the thought of, I'm projecting there, right? So there's stages to it. You think of it like, okay, you wanna make this coffee cup, right? It's never been invented yet. It's just an idea first, but then eventually it becomes an actual cup, right? So you start your forms and you have this idea, this projection, or what we'd call a thought form or an elemental of that point. So we see a line there, we see this power plane, we go, okay, great. And you start to energize this idea. And then over time, the reality of being able to discern the difference between your mind, your emotions, your energy, your body, the spirit as well, because that gives you that sense of infusion. And that discernment allows you to then start to use it more consciously. So you then place the intention there consciously. And it's like you're standing in front of yourself mentally. And you place that center, so it's like your spine might be a good way to say it, on the spine of the other person, which allows you to connect to it in a way which doesn't require force. So you don't have to push your system towards them. There's a sense of connection to them, which allows your muscles and your body to move in a relaxed way, because it doesn't feel like it's fighting against anything. It's merely stepping into the space that it already occupies.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Wing Chun is a very practical vehicle, a very practical tool to understand the higher levels of self, meaning one's etheric, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies. So it gives you a tool to practice it practically, as opposed to meditatively and theoretically, where sometimes it can be difficult to discern. But when you play with another person or with a wooden dummy and with movement, you can really go, okay, I can really sense the force and the tension in my system. Like there's a truth teller through the actual experience. And then you're, okay, great, my muscles, my body is staying relaxed as I reach through now. That's different. What am I using? So it gives you tools to truly understand what's going on within your system.
So, do you always see your mental body in front of you all the time, or is it?
Yeah, well, it's like a you know, I use the driving analogy, right? When you first start driving, you have to really think a lot about all the bits and pieces, but then eventually you don't have to think about it much. So now I just go, you know, power plane, and yes, my intent is there now. It's very natural for me
Yeah,
to go.
because she's still there. She's really cheeky. She's like,
Yeah. Yes.
we got this. And I'm like,
Yes.
seriously?
Yes.
Okay.
So you know, another way you can think about it, and I spoke about this, you know, on previous lessons, is the psychonoetical body, also known as the mental and emotional body. I think sometimes it's referred to as astral. I'm not sure, but the point is that when you dream, you use a body, right? You don't use your physical body. The physical body is lying in bed, you know, usually, once again, unless you're teach, then you're, you know, doing forms probably while you're asleep, inspiring. And as the physical body sleeps, the mental and emotional body is active in the dream world, right? So you seeing and having a sense of a body projected in front is a conscious placement of the mental, you know, the psychic mental body. So the emotional mental. The reason why we say, you know, psychonoetical is because, you know, or psychic mental or emotional mental, is because it's difficult to take a very separateness to those. Yeah, they're so linked. When you have a thought, there's an emotion. We have an emotion, there's a thought, right? So it's very, very linked together. So yeah, we've gone deeper with the teachings lately, hey?
Yeah, I know. I realise why it's happened, because there was some other work I've been doing. So does every martial artist do this? Sees this?
Every human being has these things, you know, like we all have a mind, we all have emotions, we all have energy, we all have a body, we all have spirit, right? We all have that, you know, whether it's done subconsciously or consciously is a different question. Does every martial arts train this? Definitely not. This is an internal art. So only the internal arts lean in this direction. So, you know, and essentially majority of internal arts are the Kung Fu practices. Like generally, there are levels of internal practice in other systems, but it's generally like a Chinese martial art thing. Because if you think about it, you know, the Chinese martial arts are thousands of years old. So there's been time to reflect and train and study.
They've got a lot of stuff.
Yeah, as opposed to the more modern martial arts, which are still kind of in their infancy. For example, like jiu-jitsu, that's you know, it's only the Brazilian style of jiu-jitsu. That's still very new, and there's not that much internal aspect, if any. You know, I think there are some who lean in that direction. I've seen, there's this one guy, Hickson Gracie, he leans in an internal direction, does a lot of breath work, talks about the mind, and he actually, I've seen him work with like structure as well, so he's going in that direction.
This is really cool. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, well, you
It's
know,
working on something else,
yeah,
but it's interesting because the image I've got is something that came to me a long time ago, and that's been coming, and I'm like, okay, I think it's just been open to surrendering and receiving that. So yeah. I'm cool. This is really cool.
Yeah, and the thing is,
and it's like she's not really away, but we're attached.
yes, exactly right. So you know, you can think of it. We've already been working on this. Like when we do the state training, I ask you to you have the physical sensation of the body, then you start to tap into the space, right? You're already using your intention, which is the mental body, to connect to the spirit, so that you get a good sense of alignment, which awakens a good emotional quality, which says to us, the mind is now focused on the spirit, the emotion is going upwards, so we have a good sense of alignment. But then further, when we do like sensing and syncing through the space, you're syncing energetically, you're syncing emotionally, you're syncing mentally. And I drop it in there. Sense the emotional body, sync emotionally. Sense the mental body, syncing mentally. So you're already attuning with all these qualities, and slowly, as you gain more discernment, as you gain more experience, as you gain more alignment with those qualities of self, you can then consciously place, okay, I know I have a mental capacity, and there's a vibration within me which is of a mental body. It's like a reasoning, a consciousness, and I can place that ahead of me. And then when I place that, I feel that directs the flow of energy through my system. You know, and it's like, it's just being conscious of that process. Whereas most of the time we don't even think about it. It's just built into us. Like, you know, we get out of the car and say, I'm going to go into that shop, and then away we go. But we're not thinking, I'm going to place my mental body and allow my chi to flow there. You know, like you just walk. But you know, in Kung Fu, what we're trying to do is to master ourself, so we can maximize potential power for combat, but also master the thoughts and emotions which are made of these qualities of energy, and have a relationship with them. Meaning the construction of your thought forms, right? That influences our emotional and mental bodies. So whatever you're focusing on, whatever thought form it is, you're feeding your chi or your ether or your vitality into that thought form, which is feeding back towards your mental and emotional bodies, giving you a certain frequency and vibration, which makes you feel a certain way. So by being more conscious of these things, you start to be able to dissolve, release, and take energy out of things you don't want to feed, and you can energize the things you do, like being present, like being focused, like being peaceful, like being powerful, so on and so forth. So, you know, I mean, yeah, it seems like we're going deeper nowadays. I'm gonna get a picture, 1 second.
I released something earlier, which was just during the meditation, and I think I owned it, and then there it was in the PowerPoint. I was like, wow.
This image here. So you have the etheric body, the energy body, the psychic body, and the mental body. Yeah. So you know, that's just a good way to kind of. We've spoken about this before, you know, and that's my master would use the terms Nim Tao. So he would say, you know, the Nim Tao guides the chi. And in further study, research, and experience, it became, okay, the Nim Tao is linked to the mental body, or the Greeks would call the noetic or the nous body. And then the chi is linked to the etheric body, you know, but you infuse the chi with the higher levels. So there is a flavor of mind and emotion within the, because it's all overlaying in the actual energy that flows through the system. So to make it very simple, the Nim Tao is like the intention body or the mental body, the chi is like the etheric body or the energy body. So this is another way to think about it. You got physical, energetic, emotional, mental, spiritual, right? You got these different bodies, but they're all a part of the same hand. They're the same body. So they're all overlaid onto each other, like a layer cake, a delicious layer cake of human experience.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
That's all right. Now, it's a good observation you had, and that's something we can all be conscious of. Like when we're practicing our forms, when we're practicing our state, you can place your intention in front of you, which is essentially the mental body, you know? So it's like you see yourself standing in front of yourself. Initially, that starts off as a thought form when we're beginning, and then it starts to gain a sense of reality. Because I had when I first went to Cyprus, I was getting all these like crazy experience prior to that. Like I was doing a lot of meditation each day from what I'd learned in their books and CDs and so on, DVDs. And then when I went there, I was like asking the teachers, like, so how do I know if I'm not just making this shit up, like I'm dreaming it all and it's not real? And they're like, time will tell. And they would explain how you create a thought form, and then that thought form leads you. So you first seek the truth, so to speak, and then via seeking, you start to energize the direction to go to the next step, which is know the truth. So you go from seeking the truth to knowing the truth. And then as you start to know the truth and get the taste and the experience, that leads you to the third step, that the truth then sets you free. So that's the admonition of my favorite teacher, the Christ. Seek the truth, know the truth, and the truth will set you free. But most people go from seek the truth to the truth will set you free, and they skip the experience and knowledge part and get stuck in dogma. Which is what none of us should ever do. So any of this stuff I say to you should be like, John, okay, cool, but I don't believe you. I'm gonna get the experience. You know what I mean? The experience is what actually gives you the taste and allows you to free yourself from any illusions that you have around a concept, because you step into the taste of it and then you can't deny it once you've tasted it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're on it. You're so, oh my gosh. I realized what I did in the meditation because I thought I was responsible for something. I was like, no, you're not. What are you feeling guilty about? That's not even yours. I said that to Todd, and I just let it go, let it dissolve. And then
Awesome.
in the power plane, I saw myself.
Nice. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that Kung Fu's origins is a spiritual pathway. That it's they think of it as this is just for fighting. I mean, and it is for fighting. It's fun and it trains you physically and martially, but there's a deep spiritual root in it. You know, if you're interested in kind of where, because Wing Chun kind of became more kind of scientific and popularized over time. There's a book called The Creation of Wing Chun, and it shows the points in time where the spiritual side was taken out in order for it to continue to thrive, because there was certain periods in China where, you know, if you were leaning in a spiritual direction, you could have been killed. So Ip Man and other masters consciously took out the energy work, the elements, and the spiritual side of Wing Chun. But it seems to be re-emerging, you know, through what we do. And there's other masters out there that look at the internals as well in Wing Chun, you know, the different elements, the chi body, and it's all emerging now. Because when I first started Wing Chun, it was the only person teaching internal was my master, like openly talking about chi and mind power. And this is back in the 90s, right? But no one else was talking about it. Like hardly anyone in the Wing Chun world was talking about internals or using the elements. And if they were, it must have been hidden, you know.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Tai Chi's always talked about it. Like I've always heard Tai Chi guys talking about chi and energy and stuff like that, even since I first heard about it from before. They're just gangster. I guess they didn't give a fuck. The Wing Chun guys were pussies.
Well, Tai Chi was developed by all the actual Kung Fu guys that lived through the feudal times and actually survived it. And then once it kind of like chilled out, they like kind of dispersed a lot of them and went back to their own villages and shit. And they were all amped up and aggressive, and no one wanted to fucking have anything to do with them. So they were like, they chilled out and got super spiritual. So, but they were badasses, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that Kung Fu history shit, and like, you know, you see those old pictures of these old Chinese Kung Fu masters with their outfits and shit. You're like, yeah, you know, I'm a part of that. That's cool. Awesome. All right, what other questions or discussion points do we have, team?
I'm just gonna let the day soak in.
Awesome, brother. Awesome.
Good stuff.
Yeah, you know, it may seem, you know, a little complex when we talk about mental, noetic, intention body, emotional, psychic body, energy body, but it really is quite simple. You know, it's just the layers of self. You know, and I think the hand is such a beautiful expression of that: physical, energetic, emotional, mental, spiritual. Okay, but it's the same hand. Beautiful. And because we can all know, I know I have thoughts, I know I have emotions, I know I have a physical body. They're things that you can just be like, okay, that's true. But then it becomes a matter of discernment, observation, and understanding. Meaning, another way, one of my first, my earlier teachers, I studied this teaching called the Gurdjieff work, the fourth way. They would say, when you start your spiritual work, you become the point of study. So the topic is Namata or Dave or John or TJ or Todd or Saskia or Red. That becomes the topic. You start to study yourself. And the admonition was, and we've all heard it before, is know thyself, right? To get to know yourself. And our Kung Fu and meditative practice gives us the tools to start to know ourselves. I think one of the meanings of meditation actually is translated as to become familiar with. I remember hearing that somewhere on the track, to become familiar with. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Awesome. Any other questions or discussion points before we finish up for today? Alrighty. remember that you are all awesome. And I'll see you on our next session. Peace. Thanks for joining. What do we have here? Do I have any questions? Can you give my cousin a shout out, please? I'm not an idiot. Nice try. From Kerala, was Buddha legit in his understanding of the universe? I think Buddha's awesome. I'm not an authority at that level, but I do love the teachings of the Buddha. You know, compassion, enlightenment as the goal, you know, to transcend suffering. So I love his teachings, but you know, I'm nowhere near the level where I can be an authority on the Buddha, you know. Thanks for joining, guys. Nirvana, I think you're talking about nirvana. Nirvana, I think, is the direction towards enlightenment. I don't know. I'm not at those levels yet, so I can't really speak authoritatively on those concepts. Good to see you, V. Thank you for coming. Are you a part of the One Tao Family group? Who here is a part of the One Tao Family? We've got our free learning community and courses. Anyone? If you're not, go. It should be on my YouTube page. There's a link there. When he said there's no soul, what takes rebirth? I don't know. I don't know the teachings well enough. I don't know if he said there's no soul, but he did talk about reincarnation. So, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Yeah, if you're not a part of the family yet, jump in. We teach meditation, kung fu, energy work. Yeah, interesting question. You just meditate on these things, brother or sister. I don't know if you're a guy or a girl. Meditate on them. Take the concept that you know, feel you want to know the truth on, and just meditate and contemplate with it, and see if it can, see if you can enter into the truth of it. You know, we have we're a part of everything, meaning, you know, we're a part of the cosmic consciousness, the universe, space, place, time. We're a part of it. So a lot of the truths are just embedded into us. So yeah. Google brings you here. What's up, Heaven? I prefer mindfulness in my meditation. Which your hands is there? Yeah, cool, good. Do your mindfulness work. As one of the greatest teachers of all said, I'll leave you with this, is seek the truth. So look for the truth. Try to understand and find it. You know, then the right people, the right books, the right experiences will come to help you understand it. So seek the truth, number one. Number two, know the truth. So get the experience. When you meet a person, or you find some information, or you read a book, or you gain an experience, you know, go into it and get the experience. Know the truth. And then the third part is, and then the truth will set you free. And it'll free you from the illusion of not understanding. So, you know, that's straight up from the Christ. Seek the truth, know the truth, and the truth will set you free. You know, if you can use that as a guideline rather than believing in things dogmatically, that'll give you the truth in your understanding, V. So yeah, run with that. All right, guys, much love. Thank you for joining us on this live session. I look forward to seeing the next one. If you haven't, you know, joined into the One Tao Family group, jump in. It's in my on my YouTube page. There's a link there. We do have one last question. Why we exist, do exist, deserve purpose. Why do we exist? That's a great question, brother. I don't know. I'm trying to figure that one out too. Breaking news, avoid bananas. They are triggering massive diarrhea and gas. Okay, let's make sure we not eat bananas, Sonu says, because you might get diarrhea. All right, guys, much love, peace. See you on our next session.